God has an urgent message for you today. There's spiritual paperwork being processed in the heavenly realm with your name on it right now. And you need to understand what this means. Before it gets deleted forever, this isn't about earthly documents or government forms. This is about divine documentation that's being prepared to change your life's direction. Heaven's administrative system is working on your behalf, but there's a deadline approaching that could cause your spiritual paperwork to be removed from the system. This message comes with love to help you understand what's happening in the spiritual realm. Before time runs out, as you hear these words, know that God sees the spiritual documentation being prepared in your name right now. It's normal to feel confused about what spiritual paperwork means, but remember that heaven operates with perfect order and divine systems. This warning is your chance to understand the heavenly administrative process and secure what belongs to you before the deletion deadline passes. You're receiving this message because there's still time to claim your spiritual documentation, even when divine systems seem complicated or unfamiliar. Trust that this warning is a blessing because understanding spiritual paperwork gives you power over your destiny. The angels working in heaven's filing department want you to know about your pending documentation. Every prayer you've prayed, every act of faith you've shown, creates spiritual paperwork that heaven processes on your behalf to bring breakthrough into your life. As you think about this spiritual paperwork, take time to understand what divine documentation really means. Just like a filing cabinet holds important papers that affect your life, heaven has a perfect system that records every prayer request, every need you've expressed, and every blessing you've asked for. Hold on to your faith and trust in God's systems, but let go of confusion and doubt about how heaven operates. Just like a courthouse processes legal documents that change people's lives, God's administrative department processes spiritual requests that transform your circumstances. This warning isn't meant to overwhelm you but to educate you, making you aware of the divine systems working behind the scenes for your good. Your spiritual paperwork includes documentation for financial breakthroughs, relationship healing, health, restoration, and career advancement. Every time you pray with sincere faith, you create spiritual documentation that gets filed in heaven's system. Some paperwork gets fast tracked because of your consistent faith, while other documentation moves slower because of doubt or inconsistent spiritual actions. The key to successful spiritual paperwork is understanding that heaven operates with perfect timing and divine order, just like any well-organized administrative system that wants to serve you properly. The spiritual paperwork process is more than just heavenly filing. It's a divine checkpoint in your faith journey. Heaven's processing system works with perfect precision, handling millions of spiritual requests while giving personal attention to your specific needs. Face this revelation with an open mind, knowing that understanding divine systems helps you work with heaven instead of against it. There's a loving administrative plan at work in your life, coordinating perfectly with God's timing for your breakthrough. Difficult waiting periods might have happened because your spiritual paperwork was still being processed. But see these delays as heaven making sure everything is perfect for your blessing. Every prayer you pray becomes part of your spiritual documentation, creating a paper trail that heaven uses to coordinate your miracle. When spiritual processing feels slow, reach out in prayer for updates on your documentation status. God's administrative angels are always ready to give you spiritual status reports about what's happening with your paperwork. In your prayers, you'll find peace about divine timing and clarity about any additional spiritual actions needed to complete your documentation. Heaven's processing department never loses paperwork and never makes mistakes. They're simply ensuring everything aligns perfectly with God's plan for your life. As we've discussed understanding your spiritual paperwork, process, I'd like to help you stay informed about future divine administrative updates as well. If these revelations about heaven's filing system resonate with your spirit and help you understand what God is doing behind the scenes, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to receive more spiritual guidance about divine systems and heavenly processes that affect your life. Pay attention to specific signs around you that confirm your spiritual paperwork is being actively processed in heaven's system. These aren't just random occurrences. They are divine signals sent to update you on your documentation status. As you move through your days, notice if you keep seeing repeated number sequences like 1111, 777, or 333, which are heaven's way of sending you confirmation codes about your pending paperwork. You might suddenly receive unexpected phone calls about financial opportunities, job offers, or legal matters that seem to appear from nowhere. You might dream about signing documents, meeting with important officials, or receiving mail with your name on it. Watch for unusual shifts in your financial situation, even small ones, because money movement often signals that spiritual paperwork for financial breakthrough is being processed. Notice if people start mentioning legal matters, contracts, or official business to you more frequently than usual. These conversations aren't coincidences. They're heaven's way of preparing your mind for the breakthrough your spiritual paperwork will bring. You might feel sudden urgency about making important decisions or taking specific actions, and that inner pressure is your spirit responding to active spiritual documentation. Trust your intuition when certain opportunities feel divinely timed, or when you sense that saying yes or no to something carries unusual weight. These feelings mean your spirit recognizes that your spiritual paperwork is creating real world results that require your cooperation. Remember, your spiritual paperwork operates on divine timing with specific deadlines that heaven must honor. God's administrative system surrounds you with perfect coordination, ensuring that your documentation moves through the heavenly processing centers at exactly the right pace for your life. Around your spiritual paperwork stands a team of administrative angels, filing clerks, and heavenly processors, all working to ensure your documentation meets every divine deadline without delays. This warning about deletion isn't meant to create fear, but to inform you that spiritual systems have expiration dates just like earthly ones, and every part of this administrative process follows divine protocol. Feel grateful for this insider information about your spiritual paperwork timeline, because it shows how deeply heaven values keeping you informed about processes affecting your life. Each day that passes with this knowledge brings you closer to the breakthrough your documentation will authorize. The universe coordinates your spiritual paperwork with your readiness to receive what you've requested, making sure timing aligns perfectly. Heaven never rushes your paperwork, but they also don't let deadlines pass without giving you advance warning, which is exactly what this message represents. Divine timing controls your spiritual paperwork deadlines, and heaven's perfect administrative system is alerting you now, because your documentation has reached a critical decision point. When you receive a message about deletion risk at exactly the moment when you can still take action, recognize this as sacred timing protecting your spiritual interests. These warning moments show you're connected to heaven's communication system, living in harmony with divine administrative protocols even when earthly life feels chaotic. As these deletion warnings appear, let them motivate decisive spiritual action rather than create anxiety. Each confirmation about your paperwork deadline shows heaven is keeping you informed and involved in the process. Pay attention to these urgent feelings and honor their message about timing. Your spiritual paperwork isn't randomly scheduled for deletion. It's part of a loving administrative system designed to ensure only actively claimed blessings move forward to manifestation. Keep your heart responsive to these divine deadline notifications about your spiritual documentation. The more quickly you respond to heaven's administrative guidance, the faster your paperwork moves through the divine system toward approval and activation in your life. Just as you receive these divine insights about heaven's administrative systems, your support helps us continue sharing similar guidance with others who have spiritual paperwork pending in heaven's filing system. A small super thanks of $5, $10, $20, or even $50 allows these urgent administrative warnings to reach those who need to understand their spiritual documentation status before deletion deadlines expire. As you prepare to take action on your spiritual paperwork, believe that engaging with heaven's administrative system can lead to breakthrough manifestations in your life. Just like signing important contracts with confidence and faith, your spiritual cooperation with divine documentation creates binding agreements between you and heaven that authorize blessings in your life. God arranges every administrative detail perfectly, coordinating your spiritual paperwork with your readiness to receive what you've requested. Through prayer and faith, focus on specific spiritual actions that support your paperwork processing: consistent prayer, regular gratitude, faithful tithing, and obedient response to divine guidance. These actions serve as your signature on spiritual documents, showing heaven that you're serious about claiming what belongs to you. When you stay authentic in your faith and keep your heart aligned with God's administrative requirements, miraculous processing speeds begin happening in your spiritual documentation. Opportunities you never imagined possible start appearing in your life as your approved paperwork creates pathways for divine intervention. Every step you take towards spiritual cooperation brings your paperwork closer to final approval and activation. As you engage with your spiritual paperwork process, make it a daily habit to declare, "My spiritual paperwork is approved and sealed by divine authority." Speak these words with complete confidence each morning, knowing that your voice carries weight in heaven's administrative system. This powerful declaration creates spiritual momentum that moves your documentation through divine processing centers faster than normal procedures allow. When doubt creeps in about your paperwork status, or when delays seem to stretch too long, pause and reconnect with this truth through focused prayer. Use this time to communicate directly with heaven's administrative department, thanking God for the angels working on your documentation right now. Trust that divine processors are organizing every detail of your spiritual paperwork for maximum blessing impact, and begin each day expressing gratitude for the breakthrough your approved documents will authorize. When you fill your prayers with appreciation for heaven's administrative excellence, you create spiritual favor that expedites your paperwork through every level of divine approval. Your faith becomes the official seal that validates your spiritual documentation, giving heaven legal authority to manifest your requests in the physical realm. During your spiritual paperwork season, you're not just receiving personal breakthrough, but also becoming someone who can guide others through heaven's administrative processes. This experience gives you unique insight into divine documentation systems that most people never understand. Each day provides new opportunities to share your paperwork knowledge and encourage those who feel confused about spiritual timing and divine delays. As you pray for your own documentation approval and connect with heaven's administrative angels, remember to intercede for others whose spiritual paperwork might be stalled or approaching deletion deadlines. Your breakthrough testimony can inspire and educate people who are struggling to understand why their prayers seem delayed or why their breakthrough feels stuck in processing. Use your story to illuminate heaven's administrative systems for someone else who feels lost in spiritual bureaucracy. Embrace each conversation as a chance to build understanding about divine documentation, helping create a community of believers who know how to work effectively with heaven's filing departments and administrative protocols. Develop advanced techniques for managing your ongoing spiritual paperwork effectively. Throughout your faith journey, create a dedicated prayer journal that serves as your personal filing system for tracking prayer requests, documenting divine responses, and recording breakthrough manifestations that prove your spiritual paperwork was processed successfully. This physical record helps you maintain clear spiritual documentation that supports future paperwork requests and builds your credibility in heaven's administrative system. Learn to organize your faith actions strategically to support pending documentation, combining consistent prayer schedules, regular scripture study, faithful giving, and obedient response to divine guidance into a comprehensive approach that shows heaven your serious commitment to the paperwork process. Practice maintaining detailed records of divine communications through dreams, prophetic words, confirmations, and answered prayers, creating a spiritual paper trail that demonstrates your active relationship with heavens. Administrative departments. Build spiritual authority for future paperwork by developing expertise in divine administrative protocols. Understanding how different types of requests require different processing procedures, and learning to work with heaven's timing rather than demanding immediate results. This knowledge positions you as someone heaven can trust with complex spiritual documentation and expedited processing privileges. In closing, as we face your spiritual paperwork deadline and whatever divine breakthrough it represents, let's move forward with confidence and readiness. Be prepared to welcome heaven's administrative approval, cooperate with any final processing requirements, and recognize the manifestation blessings that approved spiritual documentation brings into your life. Trust in the power of prayer to communicate with heaven's filing departments and in God's commitment to honoring properly processed spiritual paperwork. You are positioned for administrative breakthrough, surrounded by divine processing support and strengthened by understanding heaven's systems. Keep declaring my spiritual paperwork is approved and sealed, and watch as divine authorization transforms your circumstances. If this message has helped you understand your spiritual paperwork process and given you confidence about heaven's administrative systems, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more divine guidance about spiritual documentation and heavenly processes. Hit the notification bell so you never miss urgent updates about spiritual deadlines or administrative warnings meant specifically for you. When you share this message, you help others discover their own pending spiritual paperwork before deletion deadlines expire. Each person who receives this administrative guidance through you becomes part of your spiritual legacy of breakthrough and divine understanding. Dear Lord, please expedite our spiritual paperwork through your divine administrative system and give us wisdom to cooperate fully with heaven's processing requirements for our breakthrough. Amen. If this message has opened your understanding about spiritual paperwork or helped you recognize your own pending divine documentation, consider showing your appreciation with a super thanks of $5, $10, $20, $50, or more. Your support helps us continue sharing these crucial administrative revelations with others whose spiritual paperwork needs urgent attention. Please share in the comments your experiences with spiritual paperwork, divine administrative breakthroughs, or specific questions about heaven's filing systems that you'd like us to address in future videos. Your testimonies and suggestions help us bring you exactly the divine administrative guidance you need most for your spiritual documentation success.